Hey there, LJ back with a video for this potentially magical day. 11, and some would say another 11 if you added together 2018. 2 plus 1 plus 8, right, would be 11. So extra magical day, perhaps. Although some might say, and I like to feel like every day can be magical, right? But it is fun to have days like today, and I'm just glad to pop on here and say hello and talk about, yes, what I'm realizing more and more, which I have been talking to you about, but today seems another good day to talk more about this idea of how do we get more magical, perhaps. And, what I love is so many of the teachers and the teachings that I listen to and make part of my studies, which I can see is part of my yoga, right? My practices of connection and union. And so we can call it yoga. So many of these traditions, philosophies, whether it's like ancient yogi texts or even teachers that I'm listening to who are talking about what maybe the Bible was really saying as a metaphysical book. So it's so interesting how all the traditions, or listening to the Tao Te Ching. I listen to a lot of my studies lately, as much as I love to get into print books. But yeah, that really all the traditions, all the teachings, yoga too, remind us that so many parts of us are part of our magic, right? And that we can see that as we get more into our union, first of all, as we just even realize and recognize that whether we want to see like we are a piece of God, a piece of the universe, whether we want to get into the fact that we're life energy or life force or chi or prana or a child of the universe, right? We can start to see that there's a lot of power and a lot of magic to us, to like who we are and our place in the universe and in life. And that really, when it comes down to it, there's so many ways that we are creating magic in our life, like it or not, right? And part of what yoga is probably most foundational teaching, I would say, is that it's always about looking at our attention, always about developing our awareness and using all of the practices to do that. And then, we bring in that non-judgment, which helps us with the psychology of it all and even with transmuting it more and more and letting it become even more of a connecting experience to get into the awareness, right? To check out how we are using our attention and then to get magical with how we are using our attention, using it more intentionally, right? So we start to see how the use of our words, one of those things, all the traditions talk about, including yoga. I would say like the section of yoga that's called mantra is just referencing the power of our words, period. And that as yogis, we tune into that and recognize that and realize that and use that. But again, all the traditions see that and say that and teach that our word is really what creates so much. And so it is one of our magical tools, whether we're using it out loud or in our heads or on paper, right? So it's one of our magical tools that we can realize as yogis. So a day like today, maybe we realize even more, we look at even more, how are we using that tool, that power of ours? How are we using our words with ourselves, with others, in our minds? What sorts of thoughts are happening? Bringing in that non-judgment as we take a look, right? So that we can be more open to what's true and be even more able to shift that and change that and redirect it, right? So the non-judgment really helps. And then we can start to see that another related tool that we have is that imagination. And so many traditions talk about how what we picture and what we see is what we're creating. I'm on a live. And then we start to see that really, as we start to understand it all as energy and to understand ourselves as energy, right? So how we're managing our energy, our vibration becomes part of our magic. Yeah, and that's where, sure, we bring in the use of those poses and exercises and breath and different things that do have to do with the body and managing our energy, as well as so many other things that we can do as part of the energy magic too, right? And that's for sure if we want to bring in rocks and stones or essential oils or other things that help us magnify our focus, our attention, our intention, our power, right? So on a day like today, we might play with that stuff extra and write some extra stuff down, even create some like artistic expression that helps us focus how we want to focus and use our intention and attention, right? And then, yeah, do some things to tune ourselves energetically, physically, and knowing that that's just part of how we can use and tune our power, right? So I love this knowing that we are so magical always, and there's a power to just owning that and to realizing that, recognizing that, and it's maybe on a day like today, if that gets us more into it in a playful way, then we can remember that what we are even doing in each moment matters, and how we are holding ourselves, how we are being with ourselves, and then also how we're being with others and the vision that we're holding for them and the world, right, is part of our magic and power. So we can look at that and maybe look to be more connected about that, whatever that means for us, whether just more connected to our heart, our soul, our God, our sense of the universe, or what we even just want to envision for ourselves and the world. So yeah, even on a day like today, but any day, knowing that we're always having that power with that power of our words, our imagination, our attention, our intention, and our understanding it all as energy, tuning our vibe, right? And then using those feelings as that guidance for how we're doing with that focus and attention and what we are creating. And if it is in alignment with like who we are and how we want to be showing up and what we do want to be bringing to the world, right? So cheers to 11-11-11, and may you do some extra magical, even just like cheersing this moment. And then gratitude, right, is also one of those amazing tools. Just getting back to thinking about, talking about, focusing on what we're thankful for. That's always a great idea and a great vibe and brings more of the same, right? So thanks for listening. I'll keep it short and stop it there. Happy 11-11-11. Talk to you guys soon. Namaste.